Thanks, Frank.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Frank Blumenthal. I am your 2025 BCAR president, and it is my honor to be here today to introduce Dr. Lawrence Yun. Lawrence Yun is the chief economist and oversees the research group at the National Association of Realtors. He supervises and is responsible for a wide range of research activities for the association, including NAR's existing home sale statistics, affordability index, and home buyers and seller profile report. He regularly provides commentary on the real estate market trends. Dr. Yoon creates NAR's forecast and participates in many economic forecasting panels, among them the Blue Chip Council and the Wall Street Journal Forecasting Survey. He also participates in the Industrial Economist Discussion Group at the Joint Center for Housing Studies of Harvard University. He appears regularly on financial news outlets, is a frequent speaker at real estate conferences throughout the United States, and has testified before Congress. Dr. Yoon has also appeared as a guest on C-SPAN's Washington Journal. In 2025, the Wall Street Journal congratulated him for having one of the closest forecasts for 2024. Dr. Yoon received his undergraduate degree from Purdue University and earned his PhD from the University of Maryland at College Park. I understand that he loves spending his vacation time here in Bucks County and has done some great antiquing up there in New Hope. It is my pleasure to turn it over to you, Dr. Yoon. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Great. Thank you, President Blumenthal, for inviting me to share some of the thoughts with the members of Bucks County. Great area. The Delaware River, every time, I drive next to Delaware River, it's something peaceful about it. So great to join. The housing market, as we are looking in here in early September, looks to turn for a little better based on how the mortgage rate has been moving in the past couple of weeks. Mortgage rate right now reaching about 12-month low levels. And this is a very good sign. In the beginning, President Frank mentioned that I was recognized by the Wall Street Journal for accurate forecast 2024. But I have to admit, I was completely off in 2025 spring home buying market. It did not happen. This spring, which I thought would be a little more measurably better in 2025, we did not see it. Essentially, it's been delayed towards the autumn, winter months. And it's not there yet. We are still hoping that it will be. But the reason for the delay is the interest rate really did not decline in the spring months. I thought that we would see some Federal Reserve interest rate cut early in the year. It did not happen. As many of you know, there's a huge debate in Washington between White House and the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve, as an independent agency, wants to pursue what is good for the economy, while the White House is pressuring cut interest rate, cut interest rate, cut interest rate now. You should have cut it yesterday. So all that debate occurring. So how should we look at the market? Well, I'm going to just lay out the data, go into the data explanation, and use as much logic and less on hope or other sort of sentiment, but based on logic, what the data is implying to suggest what we can anticipate. So let me put it onto the chart. And I understand that some of you may be driving and just listening. Yeah, you should not be looking at the screen at all. But with that understanding, I'm going to try to see if I can sort of explain verbally some of the things that you see on the screen. And furthermore, it is recorded, which means that you can always review, go back and see actual slides of it. So let's go to the first slide and see what we are seeing. So this is the official interest rate policy by the Federal Reserve. So what you see is sometimes interest rates are high. Other time interest rate is low. Is never a straight line. It goes up and down. But the most interesting part is that from middle of 2022, it was the sharpest increase in interest rate in more than 2 generations. Last time we saw this was back in early 1980s. At that time, for some few of you who were in the business at that time, You remember mortgage rate actually going up to 18% briefly before settling down at 15, 16%. Where mortgage rate clearly went up, not to the 18%, but the sharp increase definitely brought up the mortgage rate. The blue line is what the Federal Reserve control. This is where President Trump is saying, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Because in order to get the economy going, let's get the real estate market going. I'm going to keep the blue line the same, but also include other interest rates. So blue line is essentially the same. The timeline, I shortened the timeline from pre-COVID condition. And what you care about is really the red line, mortgage rate condition. So mortgage rate is not a one-to-one relationship with the blue line. But what you see is that directionally, when the blue line goes up, red line goes up. And because of that aggressive interest rate hiking policy, mortgage rate also went up to the highest level since the year 2000 condition. So mortgage rate going up, naturally home buying is highly sensitive to changes in mortgage rate. And mortgage rate did not decline in spring of this year as I had assumed earlier. And consequently, we did not really see that robust spring home buying market. Essentially, the spring home buying market this year was same as last year. And that is not a good thing because last year was not a good spring home buying market. So 2025, we really did not see that. So higher mortgage rate essentially means that the median mortgage payment, excluding say property tax and insurance. I know that insurance has become a prominent issue now, but just looking at the principal and interest payment, what it would be monthly based on the current prices and the prevailing mortgage rate, what it would be. So essentially, beginning of the chart shows that if Americans could pay about $1,000 in mortgage payment, again, excluding property tax, excluding insurance, you could buy a decent home, medium priced home in America. But with the increase in interest rate, essentially double, and that's why home sales are struggling, the affordability problem that we are facing. So when will the Federal Reserve cut interest rates? Federal Reserve will cut interest rate once they feel comfortable that the inflation is reaching the target. That red line that you see will be the target, or either it reaches the target or the Federal Reserve is convinced that it will move towards the target. So most recent data is 2.7% higher inflation. Now, some of you may say, what is the big deal? 2.7%, that's a decimal point away from the target. Why don't the Federal Reserve cut interest rate now? Certainly, inflation rate is not the middle of the chart. 9% inflation, what people experienced 3 summers ago. 3 summers ago, people were angry. You went to the grocery store, you went to the gas station, and you were angry. Well, today, grocery store prices are not lower, but it is no longer shocking. So 3 summers ago, when prices increased, it was completely shocking. Well, today it's about the same as last year, no longer the shock factor. But the Federal Reserve wants to see the inflation moving towards 2%. So when will that happen? Well, the Federal Reserve is indicating that they are pausing, they're on delay in terms of cutting interest rate because tariffs. Tariffs automatically means more expensive products that is being shipped from foreign countries to the United States. Say children who want to buy a toy during Christmas season, well, it's going to be more expensive. It's produced in China, it's produced in Vietnam, it's going to be more expensive. Everyone recognizes that. Federal Reserve has explicitly stated uncertainty related to tariff inflationary pressure is the reason for the holding back on cutting interest rate. But what the Federal Reserve is not talking about is the following. There are other measures which could be disinflationary, meaning that prices could be coming down. One is shelter costs. We know home prices are no longer rising all that much, but the rents in many parts of the country is beginning to show no further growth. Rents rose 2, 3 years ago, but not anymore because of so many new empty apartment units coming onto the market, higher vacancy rate. So that's disinflationary. President Trump is deregulation person. Anytime there's a deregulation, there's a good and the bad. But one can say at least deregulation is going to lower the business operating costs. And to the degree that there is a cheaper business operating cost, maybe they can pay passed on to the consumers in terms of lower prices. Oil prices. Well, realtors drive much more than the general population. And gasoline prices are essentially back to pre-COVID. So it's clearly benefiting the realtors. But just consider all these 18-wheelers who are shipping Chinese toys to all the shops. Well, the tariff is making it more expensive, but the delivery of those toys are much cheaper now. 18-wheelers are now paying much lower prices of it. So this inflationary pressure. And President Trump at the time is saying, well, we have tariff for fairness, not because we want higher prices. Why come foreign countries have tariff on US products? That's unfair. So maybe the goal of the tariff is negotiation towards lower tariffs. Maybe not towards zero, maybe lower tariffs, and that could be disinflationary, but that negotiation takes time. So the impact will be further down the line. And also some weaker economy. Some people are saying weaker economy means it's going to be disinflationary. Did you know that in prices in China is actually falling? Because they have overcapacity. They cannot sell it to the US as much. And to the degree that the weakening economy globally means cheaper prices overall. So that could be disinflationary. Something new is there's some suggestion that foreigners are dumping the dollar. Weakening the dollar could be inflationary. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is Federal Reserve is so focused on the first bullet point, and they are saying we are on pause. But consider other factors that could be disinflationary or inflationary, and let's see what the inflation numbers really play out. So it's not only a one factor, it's not only tariffs, but other things should also be considered. So moving on, what the Wall Street is expecting. So these are people who are actually making bets, not only talking the talk, but people who are placing the bet. How many rate cut this year? And people who are placing dollars on their bettings market is essentially saying most people view there will be two rate cuts this year. September as 90% probability. I guess it's next week when the Federal Reserve meets when they do the rate cut. So two rate cuts this year. But I will say that if you were to put the timeline out to 2026 next year, I think it's going to be overall about 6 rounds of rate cut over the next 18 months. So now we are moving towards lower interest rate environment. When the Fed cuts rates, it's not a one-to-one relationship with mortgage rate, but directionally, it could lead to lower interest rate. Or just consider the fact that Federal Reserve has not cut interest rate, but the mortgage rate has already been falling in anticipation of the Fed rate cuts. So mortgage rate this morning, I think is about 12-month low levels. So some of your client who may have been priced out, say 6 months ago, give it a try today and they may actually qualify. So little lower mortgage rate in anticipation for the Fed rate cuts. Now let me turn to the job market. I think some of you heard the news last week when the fresh employment data came out that the economy looks to be weakening. Labor market very, very soft. Well, this is how many Americans are actually working. The data begins from pre-COVID. Then you see the COVID disruption. And Pennsylvania, unfortunately, you had a long lockdown. Other states had a shorter lockdown. But once these states began to come out of the lockdown, reopen the economy, more job, more job. And today, even with a small job gain in the past month, we are at a record high in terms of employment condition. 7.2 million more people working today compared to pre-COVID highs. So we have more people working, yet home sales are much lower than pre-COVID because of higher interest rate. So you can view the job market as potential housing demand. They cannot buy because of high interest rate, but just imagine what would happen if the interest rate begins to decline. So at least the job market is still cranking out record high numbers. But if you look at the same job number, put it differently, which is month to month change, how many new jobs each month. As you can clearly see, this year is much smaller job addition now compared to before, much softer job addition than what would be considered normal. Now, part of that explanation could be that there has been 100,000 fewer federal government employees. People know about Doge impact. Elon Musk came to Washington. He slashed a lot of jobs. So when you slash jobs in Washington and other government centers, naturally the job addition will be a little softer because you have to compensate for job cuts that has been happening in the federal government employment sector. So we have softer job addition, but it is still job addition overall, which means record high employment. And that record high employment is coming with slightly improvement in standard of living. The red line shows the wage growth. Wage growth is running around 3.5%, while the consumer price inflation is lower. Blue line is lower. So the beginning part of the chart shows that back in 2022, when inflation was high, people's standard of living was actually falling. Whatever you earn, you are burning that cash at the gas station and at the grocery shop. Today, you are earning and it's slightly above the price growth at the consumer shop, and therefore your standard of living is inching out a little better than before. So record high employment with improvement in the standard of living condition. If we look at state by state comparison, the green color states are these superstars, meaning strong job addition. Over the past 5 years, how many job addition? Unfortunately, Pennsylvania is not one of the greens. Pennsylvania is showing 3.3% job addition, 3.3% more job in the state of Pennsylvania versus pre-COVID. New Jersey, 4.5%. Somehow Delaware is one of the better performing among the northeastern states. So Delaware doing well, but it's essentially the southern states like Florida, Carolinas, Texas, and the Rocky Mountain state that has been clearly outperforming. But every state is adding job. It's just a question of whether you are a strong job creator or modest job creator. And Pennsylvania, relatively speaking, is an underperformer overall. So if we look at the region, what we are finding is first, this is not Bucks County. This is only Philadelphia and Delaware counties, which they consider to be Philadelphia Metro Division. And I will go into the Bucks County right after this. So it shows that first, it's never a straight line. So there are sometimes recession, job cuts, and then job creation. Towards the end, big decline is COVID lockdown. But once the lockdown ended, more job. So now record high employment in Philadelphia and Delaware counties. And in fact, 100,000 more jobs today compared to 25 years ago. But home sales are below that level. Home sales are below what it was in the year 2000, below what it was in pre-COVID, even though there's more job, showing pent up housing demand once lower mortgage rate occurs. Let's look at the next counties. So I'm using the census definition. So it is Bucks County, Chester County, and Montgomery County, essentially the suburbs. When I first joined NAR many years ago, I remember one economist saying Philadelphia is like a donut. Somehow the center of the city is completely different from the suburbs. And I guess from this, census decided to define it sort of differently. So Bucks County, Chester County, Montgomery County, job addition over the past 25 years is stronger compared to the inner donut. So the outer donut doing a little better in terms of job addition. So you see what's happening. And this is, I guess, a job addition in the sense that someone living in Bucks County, but as an office job in the Philadelphia downtown, where the employment would be considered as Bucks County, where they are receiving the paycheck. So you see that the surrounding suburb counties are adding more job compared to the inner suburb condition. So all potential housing demand. So we have housing demand potentially rising because job market continue to reach new highs. But home sales are depressed, down. In fact, it's been down the past couple of years. 2025 is not shown here because we have not completed the year. But if I look at 2025 monthly data, it looks like the following. So monthly data is showing no growth. So it looks like 2025, at least through the first half of the year, first 7 months of the year, is showing no growth because mortgage rates still remain high throughout, even though jobs were being added. Now, if we look at Bucks County data, I went to the website of the Bucks County Association of Realtors, and what we find is that number of homes sold in the month of July was up 0.8% from 1 year ago. Is it an improvement? I would say essentially the same. So, it's not really that improvement in terms of business opportunity, but in terms of home prices, median home price, record high, 4% growth. So business dollar volume will be up about 5%. So you are a large brokerage in Bucks County, your dollar volume will be roughly up by 5% based on home prices and unit sold changes. Days on the market, you are one of the quickest market in the country, 18 days. Nationwide is more like 29 days. So things are moving very fast. Maybe this is indicating you need more inventory. You have more inventory, then maybe you can get more sales done. So inventory levels is rising, but maybe the inventory, even more inventory growth would be very helpful in the Bucks County. This is from Bright MLS. All of you utilize it. So this is a multiple county in the greater Philadelphia region. And this is as of August. So a little more fresher data. And it shows that pending contracts, at least through August, was still down 1% from 1 year ago, essentially the same. So Bucks County is up 1%, but the greater Philadelphia region is down 1% in terms of pending contracts. But prices still rising from 1 year ago. So let's move on. So inventory picture. This is a nationwide data, but I think it will be very illustrative of what's happening in Bucks County in many, many regions of the country. So what you see is the huge increase that you see, that's the foreclosure crisis of 15 years ago. Massive foreclosures, no buyers, inventory sitting on the market, prices crashing. Today, we have more inventory, but not back to pre-COVID condition. Anyone who is suggesting maybe home prices are doomed for major crash, show this chart. Certainly not. You are in a shortage environment. Homes are selling fast, reaching new highs. So definitely not similar compared to what it was 15 years ago. Now, this is the median home price in the greater Philadelphia region, the cities, the suburbs. I think it includes a couple of counties in Delaware. So as you can see, little seasonal factors, record high. But one other thing to be reminding, look in the year 2000. Can you believe the median home price in year 2000 was about $100,000 or $120,000? You feel like you should have purchased 2 or 3 properties back then, but the prices have risen to these levels. I know in some of the expensive areas, and certainly Bucks County will be in that category, prices have risen so much, that property taxes are rising as well, which is a negative because prices rise, property taxes rise. But thanks to all the local association President Blumenthal of York County, when they came to Washington, they talked to the legislature to say, change the state and local income tax limitation. So for next year's tax filing, people can deduct the property tax, not at the $10,000 limit, but way beyond that. So that's part of the power of the realtors trying to engage with the policymakers in that regard. So price increases, certainly good news in terms of wealth, but bad news regarding property tax. But at least property taxes can now be deducted more fully due to the changes in legislation. And let's look at the price change over the past 5 years. So Pennsylvania, 52% increase. So these are quite a sizable gain in a short 5-year time span. Green shows even faster price appreciation. Somehow New Jersey is in the green. I guess they have the ocean, and we saw during COVID, many people sought out where there was either the mountains or the ocean or lakes condition. But now with return to office, maybe this trend will change in the next 5 years, but very strong price increase. Blue shows the real estate asset valuation, essentially home prices in the aggregate, while the red shows mortgage debt. So the difference would be the net wealth of the homeowners. So taking the difference, this would be the real estate net worth. So your past clients are very happy with your service. They're so happy they bought a property with you whenever they bought a property with you, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, because prices have risen and this is their wealth. And for most middle class Americans, they have their wealth tied to real estate. Some have 401k, some have retirement savings, but most of wealth for middle class Americans are on real estate. So your past clients are very happy. Now, you are not getting the business opportunity in the past few years, but at least be confident your past clients are very happy. They're not really facing foreclosure condition. This chart, I think you have seen it sometime in the past, but worth reinforcing. Furthermore, updated data based on what's happening in the price trend. The typical homeowners have a sizable wealth gain while the renters are simply spinning their wheels. We know that intuitively, but this is a data that you may want to share with first-time buyers. I heard that there are many millionaires who are renting. It just does not make any sense why they should be renting when you clearly would gain wealth condition. So anyone who is financially qualified, show this chart because wealth comes from owning a property in America. And as to the home price decline potential, I already show you the inventory level. We are not in abundant inventory. Furthermore, the stress on the mortgage market. How many people are delinquent in their mortgages for 90 days or longer? What about foreclosures? Well, as you can see, right now, foreclosure and the delinquency rates are near historical lows. So again, showing that there is not a stress for homeowners. Don't expect somehow massive foreclosures coming onto the market and price declines. So prices are on firm ground. And furthermore, we have about more than 1/3 of homeowners with no mortgages, meaning no chance of foreclosures. So let me wrap it up as we go into the forecast. So home sales, your business opportunity really did not pick up meaningfully this year so far. But the leading indicator, meaning how many Americans are taking out a mortgage to buy a home. This is not a mortgage approval, but at least applying for mortgages is implying serious intent. And throughout early part of this year, we are seeing more people applying for mortgages. And maybe they're just waiting for the right time. Maybe they said, oh, I get approved, but I cannot find the right home. I need more inventory. Or they get approved and they said, well, mortgage rates are still a little high. Maybe I want to see a little lower mortgage rate. So at least the serious intent of wanting to buy a home is on the increase. It's just a matter of translating this into actual purchases. And that could happen once the mortgage rate decline as the Federal Reserve is set to cut interest rate in the upcoming months. So let me just go to my final chart. So my final slide is that home sales forecast. I downgraded 2025. I thought we would see a meaningful growth 1 year ago. Well, we didn't see it. So it's a little depressing that we're going to have only 3% increase in home sales this year. But all that delay increase is pushed on to next year. So I anticipate next year about 14% growth in unit sales. No home price crash with people coming into the market, lower interest rate. I think the prices could actually go back up to 4% growth rather than 1% growth. And mortgage rate. Right now, I think the average is around 6.4%, but I think it's going to reach towards 6%. Not the 3% or 4% or even 5%, but I think the 6% would be the new normal low point. So when you see something mortgage rate close up to 6%, I think those are sort of attractive. And I really don't see economic recession. I know job market, Job market is sluggish, job creation is minimal, but let's see what happens as the Federal Reserve cuts interest rate, real estate rebound, and maybe that will be a overall stimulus for the real broader economy. So thank you very much for having me. And now I'm going to turn it back, I guess, to President Frank Blumenthal. So thank you very much.
That was so informative. Thank you so much for taking time out to speak with our members today. Very insightful with the low inventory. I mean, like for the second year in a row, we have record low home sales and inventories. I mean, inventory. So home sales will hopefully go up next year. One quick question for you before you go. When we were in DC, you had mentioned that mortgage applications were up 20%, but they hadn't been realized yet. Has there been any realization in that yet, or we're still just waiting?
Yeah, we're still in the waiting mode. I mean, usually the time period between mortgage application and increase in home sales usually tends to be about 2 or 3 months. But this time around is much longer than that. So I think what's happening is that people are applying. Maybe they're getting denied because of a 7% mortgage rate. But if they were to reapply again at 6.4%, maybe they qualify. And we know the home prices are not moving higher in any measurable way. So it's greatly improving the buying purchasing power at the moment with the lower mortgage rates.
Again, thank you so much, Dr. Yoon, for your informative session this morning. I look forward to seeing you in Houston in November. Thanks to our great staff for putting this together and all of our members who were able to attend today. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day and got a lot of great information out of Dr. Yoon. Thank you again. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Yoon.